fans, we hope you've got your cups filled with some tea because our cup of tea is ready to speak all things women's soccer with you. My name's Megan Warner and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Harlie Ford and Katie Goodman. How are you both today?
Lovely, wonderful, happy to be here. Missing some tea, and it's finally like getting cool enough that I can justify drinking tea, and I don't have a cup with me, so I'm sorry. So sorry.
Yeah. Same here. It was like 50 something degrees this morning in San Antonio, which is like a rarity. That's like a December type, temperature. And of course, it's already hot again now that it's it's later in the evening here. So, no, I feel the same way. I would love to have my tea in hand, nice and warm, but it's been a crazy day. So as you can tell, I have a different background in an actual studio at the moment.
Me too,
The lights
Katie.
aren't
Me
working,
too.
so I look like a vampire. So just brush that off, guys.
Stunning. It's very in
Disregard.
season, very spooky. Vampires are in season right now.
Yeah, there you go.
I support it.
All right, I like that. Let's go with that.
Come up with the reason behind anything that we do on this show.
Listen, I got you covered. You need a reason, I'm there for you.
Right,
It's spooky
love it.
season.
Let's go.
Well, let's start off the show today by spilling the tea with the latest and greatest in women's soccer. So on Thursday evening, the Women's Euro 2022 schedule was released. Now, for all our English viewers, England are in Group A with Austria, Norway, and Northern Ireland, which looks to be a pretty good group. I have high hopes that England will come out on top, but we'll see if all goes to plan. Group B looks to be the group of peril, which is what the term has become on Twitter. Germany, Spain, Denmark, and Finland. So that's going to be an interesting group to watch. Couple of important dates to note. Opening game is going to be July 6th, England taking on Austria at Old Trafford. And the final is going to be played on July 31st at Wembley Stadium. So super exciting that the schedule is out. It's really happening. We're getting hyped. Find the full schedule on our Twitter feed at Our Cup of Tea Pod. Head on over there. You can get all the details. And a fun fact, the official sponsor is Lego, which I thought was really cool.
That's excellent. You know, I knew that you were excited about it because I saw that you privately DM'd Our Cup of Tea page the schedule. I was like, she doesn't want to lose it. She needs it now.
Yes.
It was pretty great.
Yes.
Yeah, just so you know.
Good to know. Yeah. Good to know too.
It's awesome.
Like, why not have that information? It's great.
Yeah. Also, part of this week, Kansas City's got some cool news. So the owners of Kansas City and WSL, they're announcing their intention to build the first stadium created specifically for a National Women's Soccer League team, which is really, really cool. I mean, it talks about this happen with like the WNBA sometimes trying to find women specific stadiums. So it's going to be wonderful to see one that's like focused solely on women's soccer. The stadium's expected to cost around $70 million and will be built in the Berkeley Riverfront area in KC, Missouri. The owners bought the team just under a year ago, and they've brought numerous positive changes, and many more plans are going to be coming with this announcement. So, including a $15 million training facility. So, sometimes we talk about the way that you can support women's soccer, and one of those ways is to put, your money where your mouth is, and they're certainly doing it with this, dumping almost $100 million into this program. So, it's very, very exciting. Additionally, 7 KC players have been out on international duty. So 2 UWS players were added to the KC and WSL roster on short-term contracts. So congratulations to Abby Small and Courtney Klassen of the KC Courage. I mean, truly, that's like amazing. We cannot talk enough about the opportunities that the UWS brings to players. It's amazing.
Yeah, you just patiently wait for your call up, train hard over the summer and you can get recognized and you can move up to that next level. I mean, I'm so excited. Even if it's a short-term contract, they're going to get that exposure and the opportunities that will come with that are just very exciting.
Absolutely. I would love to see more friendly games between the UWS and NWSL. We were lucky enough last summer for the Athenians to be able to play the Houston Dash. And given it was their second team, it was still an incredible opportunity to be there, to be around those players playing at that level, and to meet coaches and the coaching staff, things like that. So that's exactly how those opportunities come about. So, I wouldn't doubt if this ends up being something that's kind of like how the USL feeds in the MLS. Maybe it can be UWS feeding into the NWSL. So many acronyms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
it's a lot. You got them on
really
lock, though.
mouthful.
That was good.
Yeah, but no, I think that would be really cool to see more friendlies and things happening, just more opportunities for girls, and then, just to round out our news today, of course, we want to highlight Harlie Lloyd, my favorite of all time, both her and Mia Hamm. She played her final game for the U.S. women's national team this Tuesday after 17 years with the squad. And I mean, talk about a career. And of course, they won the game against Korea 6-0. So that's definitely a good one to go out on, right on top. But, when I think about Harlie Lloyd in 17 years in the game, she is one of those players that I looked up to, and she's one of the last OGs on the team from my era of looking up to players. So when I was really young, I was looking up to players like Mia Hamm, Brandi Chastain. But as I was getting into middle school, high school, that's when Harlie Lloyd started kind of coming on the map. And she's just taken that career and has run with it. I mean, it's a household name. My sister, who is 43 years old, she and I, Harlie Lloyd is hands down our favorite player in the entire world. And it's because of her longevity. It's the way she holds herself on and off the field. It's the fact that she is one of those trailblazers for women's soccer. So, it hit me, actually. I found myself getting emotional and teary-eyed watching this game and just seeing her get emotional and seeing her fans and just knowing wow, this is kind of an end of an era, but of course women's team, they're always going to be amazing, best in the world, love them, but it's just it's going to be interesting to see how things go after the fact. And she had said, at the end there, that it wasn't going we weren't going to not see her around. She was going to be around the field doing things, involved. So I'm wondering if she's going to be on the coaching staff somewhere, or if there's something up her sleeve. What do you guys think is coming next? Maybe she's going to be a commentator. I don't know.
Oh, I could definitely see that in her future.
Yeah. I feel like the commentary route has been kind of a thing now. A lot of players, you see Karen Carney and Alex Scott back in England are killing it in those roles. I love when those two are commentating on games, because just to hear that female voice just making a name and creating more opportunities for women is going to be great. But she could also be on the coaching staff, and that is a lovely segment. We love when we get these seamless transitions.
Ooh, segues.
It's what we're talking about today.
Snaps.
Our hot topic for today is we're going to be serving some tea on coaching. It's an extremely relevant topic with all the staff changes that we're seeing in the NWSL. And this week, we had some news from the San Antonio Athenians with the announcement of the departure of the head coach, Fabio Melo de Alcantara, who he was named Southwest Conference head coach. He took the Athenians all the way to the UWS national semifinal, and he's leaving the team, which I was very surprised to hear this. But the team quickly announced their new head coach, which I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Ronaldo Lima Sequeira. Looks to have a great resume, and I'm sure most of you guys know that Katie plays for the Athenians. So, Katie, let's kind of get your thoughts on that. How are you feeling with the news? Have you spoke to any of the other girls about it?
Yeah, so we've actually known about it for a while now, or at least I have. I am very close with Fabio, and so we've kind of been keeping tabs on each other even after the season. And we knew it was a transition that was going to occur. And Ronaldo has been around for a while. He was helping us out with practices. He was helping the Athenians' next team, which is a lot of high school players who we want to bring into the UWS, but maybe they're not quite there yet. So we have this kind of segue team into a segue team that will hopefully get us to a professional team, right? And the thing about Ronaldo is that he has a background with the Tigres in Mexico, which is a professional team. He also coached the RGV Toros, which is another semi-pro team in a different league. But, the fact that he was a director there, rather. So the great thing about Reynaldo is not only does he have this great experience at a whole nother level, but he also has the director business experience that goes with it, which makes him really a great fit. And even just practicing with him during those few times, he was so great at calling you out. Hey, what was that? No, I need you to do it this way. Whereas, sometimes there's just so many of us moving and doing things that it's hard to keep tabs on all of us. Now, Mark, who was our assistant coach, is going to be our assistant coach again this season. So that's going to be good to have that consistency there, because he has seen us from the start to the finish. And I think that's something that for me as a player, anytime there's a new coaching change, anything like that, or, even in anything, whether you get a new boss, and management, it's the same. You need someone to know where you came from and where you're at so that they know where you can go. You know what I'm saying? It helps to have somebody who can understand your entire longevity of the journey with the team and know how all of the different personalities play together, who's who on the team. So it's good that we're going to have Mark around. He's great with drills. We're also getting a strength coach as well, which is going to be so fantastic, because that is something that I felt personally we could have used a little bit more of. And I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot saying this. I really hope none of them are watching this. But, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot saying this, because I know it's going to be brutal and gnarly going back next season, but it's such a necessary evil, you have to put in the work and it'll show in the game, So in the times that we were running and doing a lot of lifting and stuff, I definitely saw that performance improve in the game across the board for all of us. You stay safer, all those things. So, I think it's going to be a really good season next year. And Fabio's amazing too. I don't want to downplay that by any means. He's looking into other things at the moment, possibly men's soccer, looking at a couple of teams regionally. So I wouldn't be surprised, especially with what's on his resume now with us, if he doesn't end up somewhere really cool pretty soon. But again, not my stuff to share here. So just stay tuned with that. And but otherwise, I think we have a really great outlook for the future for the Athenians. I'm really surprised. I'm scared, low-key scared, because I'm I hope I can keep up with these Athenians. I kept up with them last year. Can I keep up with them this year? I don't know. It seems like it's about to be a different ball game. But we're gonna be great. Otherwise, either way, I mean,
Yeah, I
so
have faith
it's
in
gonna
you,
be good.
Katie. You're a very determined person, very tenacious. So I
I'm-
have faith in you.
Thank you, ma'am. I've been playing in my summer leagues and everything and trying to keep my touches up so that, when this next season rolls around, I'm at least in a better state of preparation than I was last season. Last season was just brutal. So let's hope it works out.
You got this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on so many wonderful points about, having this presence there that has understood the history of the team and is able to help with this transition into new staffing roles and stuff. So it's also really nice to see, even though technically it's a grassroots team, that they are investing so much into the program and making sure that you have the resources to strengthen yourself as an athlete and as a person. So it's really, really cool, Katie. What a wonderful and rewarding experience, regardless of the pain, the cursed 3 days after you start strength and
I
conditioning.
know, right? I'm yeah, no, I absolutely love the team. They're so professional. They've always handled everything with the utmost professionalism. And you can see the difference sometimes versus, other teams will play in the league, just in the way they even communicate, on a business level, not necessarily on a skills level, but on a business level. And so when I came into the organization and started playing, that was another one of those things that wanted to keep me around. I like being part of people who are holding themselves at the highest standard, because that's only going to bring everybody up with them.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And to know that's going to be carried into the program, super cool.
Yeah.
Also, talking about some transitions that are happening. So my own mom, Coach Chris, a staple of the show, lovely human being. She also she just accepted a head coaching position at a local high school. So she was assistant coach there last year, like part of the head coach of the JV program. But now she's going to be running the varsity squad, and they've just started practices. They have their first game coming up this coming weekend. Right now they're at practice, and it's a Halloween practice, and they brought one of our dogs with them, and she's dressed as a hot dog. So, but like,
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
So much.
Yeah, but she's really focusing on transforming the team culture and making sure that those girls understand that, but even if soccer isn't the end all be all for them, they're going to have opportunities and pathways to grow as people and, be successful in whatever path of life they want to follow. So that's just something that's really cool. When you get to have the chance to build something of your own, maybe you have the building blocks that were there before with the players that are still there, but as a coach entering a new squad, you get to choose the culture. So that's something that she's really excited to take on.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing when you get a new coach, because there's always a unique situation as to why this coach is coming in. Odd one left. In the higher ranks, you get maybe somebody's been fired because they're not producing the results.
Right.
And so every coach that comes in has to have kind of a set plan in a sense, but once they meet those players, maybe things will change. It's a really interesting conversation to have. And today we're actually joined by Weber International University's head women's soccer coach, Eric Castelline. So he can kind of give us a bit of that insight into what it's like entering a new program. Hey, Coach Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you all? Thanks for having me on.
Very excited to have you on.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Holly and I actually
here.
We got to play for Eric while we were at Weber. Eric was the assistant women's coach. And then Eric moved on to Minnesota to be the men's assistant coach at St. Mary's. And in March of 2021, Eric returned to Weber as the head coach. So similar to Coach Chris in a sense, where you went from an assistant role into a head coach role. So you were familiar with some of the girls, but you also had some new girls and, of course, all the recruits coming in. So, Eric, just tell us a bit about how you found it coming back to Weber in March 2021 as the head coach.
Yeah, so when I came back, I think, for me, the biggest aspect that I saw right away when I came in that needed to be addressed was definitely the culture piece. I think whenever you're taking over a new program, whether it was a culture that was good and successful, or was one that maybe wasn't as much so, I still think it's really important that you as a coach have your own imprint and you have a say in how you want things done and kind of what I felt that there were some things that maybe we could improve upon and change, I think, for the better. And I think I was at a little bit of an advantage, kind of like you said, where I knew a lot of the players here already. So when I came in, I think that the buy-in was a little bit more immediate than maybe somebody who was coming in brand new and didn't know the players. So I think that was a good piece, and having a good relationship with those players meant a lot. And so, when we came in and said, hey, these are a couple things that we want to do a little bit differently, and these are, some new ways we want you to look at things, I think there wasn't as much of an opposition as you would usually have during a regime change. I think just in general, people don't like change, right? It's not something that's extremely comfortable, and for some people it shouldn't be, right? It's a natural human emotion. But I think, overall, because I did have that relationship and knew people here, I think the willingness to, accept some of that change was a bit higher.
Yeah, I feel like one of the big things when it comes down to change is people are scared of the unknown. But you kind of had that. It was less of the unknown because you had those relationships. You had girls who didn't know you were still hearing from the ones who did good things about you and the experiences they had with you that really probably helped.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to tell people was y'all are so lucky. So lucky. No idea.
No. I appreciate that. I think it was, like I said, it was very good, and it's a credit to the players. I think as a coach, you can have, you know, all the different things you want to change with culture and all the things you want to imprint onto the program. But if the players aren't bought in and they're not committed to making those changes, then it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? So it is a credit to the girls who were here. They've taken to it and bought into it.
Yeah. So when you like made that transition from an assistant coach role into a head coaching position, were there any things that like stood out to you? Like what was something that like really impacted you in that transition, or what was difficult about it?
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've been fortunate with the situations that I've been in coaching, starting out at High Point University on the men's side, and then obviously transitioning to Weber and then to St. Mary's and back to Weber. I think I've been in positions where I've had a lot of exposure to the jobs of a head coach, and I think that's an important part, you know, for head coaches to be able to pass on to assistants of, you know, giving them that exposure. So, you know, when they do eventually make that transition, it's not a complete shock to the system. They at least have a general idea of the things that they're supposed to be doing and things they're supposed to be looking for. I think as anybody that's transitioning from an assistant role to a head role, I think the administrative side of things is always kind of the biggest jump. But I think it's, you know, essentially it's just like anything else. Once you do some things a couple times and you mess up at it a couple times and then you learn and then you kind of figure it out. So that's been the process over the last couple months.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's so much that goes into it when you do take on a new position, you know, like that. And so, you know, as someone like me who is about to start working with a new head coach from the player's perspective, you know, I know that sometimes we can be, you know, a little bit uneasy, but a little bit curious because we just don't know what's going to happen. We don't really know what to expect from the head coach either if we don't really know him. Now, you do have the benefit of having played some assistant roles and you have some people who know some people who know you. But how are you going to handle, you know, because everywhere you go, there's a set culture and a set way, right? So how are you going to deal with the emotional and the mental side of that when it does come into play? How are you going to kind of add your own personal touch into that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, you know, for us, I think we've already experienced that a lot this year, where we've seen the difficult parts of change. So we've seen where, you know, maybe some people in our culture and our system were used to a certain way of things being done, you know, even maybe, you know, from the time they were in high school, and it was similar to the way that things were maybe in some aspects when they came here. And so, you know, breaking those habits and you know, trying to, I guess, change the understanding of what we want now is difficult. And you know, for some players, I think it's been harder than it has been for others. But I think as a coach, it's just something you have to understand going into it, where, you know, especially in your first year, the culture isn't going to be 100% the way that you want it to be. But I think it's very possible. I think we've kind of shown here that you can make some big strides if you're trying to do the right things. So again, I think for us, it's, you know, it's having open communication with the players and, you know, being very honest. And even if it's answers and things that maybe they don't want to hear, maybe they don't necessarily agree with, I think you can sit in front of them and look them in the eye and kind of get to their level and say, hey, look, I understand the frustration, I understand the disappointment, but this is the way that we are doing things now as a family, as a program, and you know, if you essentially if you want to be a part of this, like, everybody kind of has to get on board to the way we want to go. And I think in the beginning, you know, sometimes it has to be maybe a little bit more authoritarian in a way to kind of get the point across and set that standard. But you always have to have the ability to meet with your players and chat, you know, and get to their level and you know, understand them as people, you know, not necessarily just how they're feeling about it from a footballing perspective.
Right. I'm sure there's so many different personalities you're going to be working with too. So
It'll
be definitely an added challenge for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has there kind of been any of those, the culture type things or things that you've wanted to implement that you've realized maybe I need to change this, even though this is how I want to do it right now, I need to adapt it for the current situation? Have you kind of come across that?
I would say the biggest part maybe in that aspect would just be maybe the way that we can push the players at this point. I think you're always going to have different personalities, and you know, some players you could really get into and really push them in that sense, or some you have to be a bit more gentle and kind of, you know, put your arm around them and kind of help them on. I think for our group, I think I would like us to be maybe a little bit less fragile than we appear sometimes. Because I tell them all the time, like, you're not fragile, right? You're strong and you can handle any of this and you can do anything that you want to do. So you need to stop acting like you are fragile. And so we've had a couple things with that. But again, I think it's a natural part of, when something's been done a certain way in a player's upbringing for so long. Essentially in college, when you get to them, they've already had 17 years of whatever, training and whatever the culture was and all those things that they've had before. And so, especially for people that are just coming in, the season is 2.5 months long. So you're not going to change, perspectives and tendencies that have been cultivated over 17 years. You're not going to change those in 2.5 months. So instead it's a little bit of, how can I work around these and still get the best out of this individual? But again, other than that, I think for the most part for us, it's actually been quite good, the buy-in, and I think most of the things that we've wanted to implement, we've been able to do it. It's been, I know maybe my situation's a bit different. I'm kind of lucky with the players that we have here. I think they've bought in really easily.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who don't know, Weber is an NAIA school that plays in the Sun Conference, and Eric is leading this team to an incredible season.
Like a historical season.
Yeah, like currently 10-4-1 with the record. They beat number 22 ranked in the country, St. Thomas, and they've secured a place in the conference tournament, which Weber hasn't achieved since 2017. So definitely the statistics show that the culture is shifting, the buy-in is there, and the girls are performing. Now, Eric, what do you think has been the key thing since coming to Weber that has allowed you to have this great first season? A lot of times, first season coming in, it's like we're a building team. Like, we just take the wins where we can get them, but we're looking into the future. But Weber has really had such a immediate turnaround with how the season's going.
Yeah, sure. I think for us, it's been a combination of a couple things. I think recruiting, obviously, when we got in here, my new staff in March, we worked really, really hard, and we were fortunate there were still some very good players left over. There were still good players that were within the program already that were returning. So we were in a good situation player wise. But for me, I think again it all comes back to the culture piece, because when I got the job and when I enter seasons, my main goal is not, I don't go into the season thinking like how many games can I win, like what can I do to win X amount of games. For me, it's always about the experience for the players and not just on the field, but their entire existence at the university. I think if we have only out of this program, I think we've only had one player ever go play professionally. Wink, wink. But I think besides that, it's everybody else. Most players are gonna go do something else in their life, and so I think if we're only focused on results and you're not focused on what can we do to better these people and their lives and giving them tools to go be successful in whatever they want to do. I think if that's not the approach that we're taking, I think that we're missing a really good opportunity to impact people. And so, it's always been my opinion too, if you get the culture piece right, then results will come. If you have good players and you can keep the culture in a good spot, I think results will come. And we always try to tell the players that we're not really focused on the extrinsic goals. We're not, obviously everybody wants to win a conference championship. Everybody wants to qualify for playoffs. We want to win double-digit games in a season. But for us, it's always been, no, we need to focus on our core values. And if we can focus on our core values and we can try to live up to those to the absolute best of our abilities every single day, then that's what success really looks like for us. And so trying to push that narrative and that aspect of it, I think has really helped us kind of stay grounded and stay focused. And then just like any other season, there's ups and downs, but I think, the combination of the players that we have who have put in great performances for us, but then, the staff and everybody involved in the program trying to keep the culture in a good spot. I think it's all kind of just been kind of the perfect storm for us in year one. And yeah, we've thankfully been able to have some success, which has been great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I actually my next question to you was going to be about how do you keep the success sustainable? Because having such an explosive season it is incredible, but when key players leave those positions, it's difficult sometimes to try and sustain that forward movement. So what are you looking forward to? Because we're almost at the end of the season, so this spring season will come up in the next year. Are there any things that like you're looking forward to building, changing, growing? And like, what does that preparation look like?
Yeah, no, great question. So, I mean, for us, I think it helps a little bit when you do have a successful season with recruiting, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So we think we've seen, I think the job that the staff was able to do, in the 3 or 4 months before the season started, recruiting was pretty remarkable. Worked really, really hard to kind of get that job done. And so now having an entire year to kind of do the same job, I think we've already been able to have some really good hits on players that are interested, and we're pretty close on a couple really big ones. So that's exciting for us. But for me, culture is a 365-day-a-year thing. It's not just something you work on during the season or during the week or before big games. It has to be something that you're always trying to improve and get better with. And just like for me, just like any player, I'm not perfect. I don't do every single thing right, all the time. I don't have all the answers all the time. But I think I have good people around me who can kind of help me try to find those answers. And if we continually work on that, and I think that the players that have been here now, once we get into next fall, we would have had players that have been here an entire year now. They understand the standard that we want. They understand what we expect culturally from them, and then we try to recruit players that have those same ideas, that same mindset. And then when you kind of bring those together, then you can continue to move forward. And I think tactically speaking, I think when you come into a job like this, it's there's going to be a lot of things that you want to work on. But when you get everybody in the preseason, you have 2 weeks before the season starts. You know what I mean? So you're not going to hit on every single piece. So I think you have to find the main aspects of your game model that you really want to focus on, that you really want to push. And that's kind of what you have the first season to deal with. And you have those main aspects, those main principles of the game model. And then as you kind of move into the spring, okay, now we can start kind of fine tuning the smaller details. And then obviously through there you have the summer, they can do it on their own. And then next fall, again, you have players that have been involved for about a year now, and they've learned and they've understood the standard, and we can keep trying to push it forward.
That really
Excellent.
makes a lot of sense, to just like focus on your specific game plan rather than hoping to fill every single piece of the puzzle right from the
Sure.
get-go. That makes so much sense. And, it's, you're very well seasoned here, obviously now as a head coach of this incredible program with a record already. Now, what advice would you give to new coaches, like coming into a new team? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice, again, I'm not the know-it-all for all that there is to coaching, but I think, just in my experience, I think the best advice I could give someone going into a new program is to be brave and to don't shy away from what you want your standards to be. I think coming into different programs, maybe this one a bit, where there was times where people were like, oh, you can't do this working there. Like, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do this. And my thought was always, well, no, I think we really can. And I think if you do the right things and you continue trying to push that, and you can recruit the right players to come in that fit your system, I think that you can. And I think you have to be willing to take the lumps of your first couple seasons a lot of times when you're trying to build something. And you can't let the standard drop for any player or group of players. You know what I mean? I think you have to be strong in what your ideology is for the program that you want to build, because ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to the head coach, right? If the team wins, wow, the head coach is doing a great job. If the team loses, then you're probably not going to be in the job very long, right? And so if it's going to fall on your shoulders at the end of the day, I think you really have to build something that you want and that you feel comfortable with and that you're proud of. They have to play the way that you see the game. They have to, act in a way that you would want your players to act and carry themselves. And because it's not in college, obviously, it's not just a reflection of your team; it's a reflection of the university.
Right.
So that would be my biggest advice: just be brave and don't drop your standard.
I love that.
Yeah. I think it would be easy to try and maybe make some compromises or bend to some wills in some ways, just to ease your transition into that position. And Wow, that was a lot of rhyming, but
Starting to flow
I was dropping some bars there, but
Yeah.
no, really, I think it's really admirable that you stuck to your values, and I think that reflected in the program, and the successes that you found are both like a reflection of those values and also your dedication to transforming the team there. Like, as Megan and I, like, we came from that program, and I do think that we may have had like the athletes to change our seasons, but I don't think the coaching presence was what we needed it to be at those points in time. And it's so, we talk about this on our show a lot about the impact a coach can have on a team. Like, you are truly like the pivotal person in a season and for a program. So, you know, it's really admirable what you've done with those ladies. I think it's amazing.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I always remember when I went to Daytona State as 18-year-old coming from England, went into this brand new program. This was the first season that they had a team. So the culture thing was huge for Coach Brittany and Coach Maggie. And we would sit in classrooms and go over the core values of the program. And we created like a mission statement for the program, which was really foreign to me. Like, I'd been at Watford, and it was more about like, you know, you train, you like work on yourself as a player, and like, we want to get results. Like, how are we doing in the league? And then when I came over to America and I'm in college, it was so much more. And yeah, like those core values, like drilling them into people, like I can still think about the core values in the mission statement to this day. It's crazy how much a culture sticks with you. And when I, what's the word? Moved on to Weber, I can't think of the word. I still had those core values like drilled inside me, and I wanted to share those with the new teammates that were around me, and I wanted them to have the culture that was created at Daytona because I knew how successful it was. And I think, like you said, Harlie, that culture, it wasn't quite there. It wasn't established enough. And I think, like we've spoken about this season for Weber, the culture is there. The culture is like not just coming from one person. It's the head coach. You've talked to your coaching staff, you know, assistant coach, he's there and he's supporting everything that you're doing. And the girls are so bought in that it just makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to have everybody. You have to have everybody bought in, staff, players, managers, you know, whoever's involved in the program. It does take everybody. And then if you can get that buy-in, then yeah, it's a good chance to see some success for sure.
Now, I'm going to throw you on the spot here, Eric.
Oh, perfect.
We've got a game tomorrow, which we're pre-recording, so it's going to be later today if you're watching live.
Sure.
What can we expect from the game?
Yeah, no, I think Thomas is a good team. I think the Sun Conference is a very, very competitive conference. I mean, every single game you have to go in ready to play, and if you don't, teams will catch you. I think Thomas as a team, I think they've had some tough results this season, but I don't think that's really truly a reflection on the ability of the team itself. You know, for us, on the other hand, coming off a 3-0 loss yesterday to Southeastern, who's the number 9 team in the country right now, I thought we actually played like quite well for good portions of the game. I think, you know, a team like that is better right now in the little details than we are, and you know that's why they're, you know, a top 10 team in the country. So I think if we can mimic the performance and then take a lot of those good pieces from yesterday and bring them to tomorrow, I think, you know, we'll be in good shape. But it's going to be a battle, just like every other game in the Sun Conference is. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. And if you guys want to tune in, that link is scrolling across. Go and support Weber. Incredible program. And thank you so much, Coach Eric, for joining us today. It's been really great to get your insight into what it's like to step into a new team. And we wish you the best of luck with your final regular season game and then also going into the postseason. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Have a good day.
So nice to meet you. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
So that is Coach Eric, everybody. You probably heard Harlie and I talk about him, and now you can finally put a face to the name. And if you want to follow Weber Women's Soccer, that is now scrolling across the bottom. So go over, show your support.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I do want to reiterate now that we're talking about NAIA soccer is that it is competitive. It is a place where, you know, there are opportunities, and regardless of what your opinions might be about like NCAA versus NAIA, knowing that there's like Eric is taking such a serious role there and putting so much effort and emphasis on team culture and building people up so that they can be successful, whether or not they go pro or they find something else to do with their lives. It's just something that's really invaluable, and I'm very grateful that it exists in that environment, especially for everyone who's there. So good luck, Weber, with everything you're doing.
Yes, and thank you everybody for joining us today on Our Cup of Tea. We really hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you to our special guest, Coach Eric Castelline, for joining us. And as always, we'd like to give a special shout out to Jonathan Ward, the UWS and the UWS2, to help us bring this #1 live show dedicated to women's soccer to your screen. So if you haven't already, follow your hosts individually, follow our Twitter account, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and get interactive.
Okay. Have a beautiful rest of your Saturday.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one. Happy Halloween.